This presentation is for educational purposes only, and the opinions expressed are those of the presenter. All trades presented are not traded in a live account and should be considered hypothetical. Hello everybody and welcome to Hawkeyefx with your host Marcus Toombs on the 11th of September 2017. This is my weekly review, and if you remember on Monday of last week we were looking for a continuing Canadian strength as it turned up here, pound strength here, and then euro weakness as this weakened down in the charts. As we can see here, what actually happened was we did have continuing pound strength here, although there was some strong pullbacks, and also the Canadian did strengthen through here, and we'll look at this in the charts, but this was mainly due to the increase in their interest rate. The euro did weaken through last week, but the main story was the US dollar here, as you can see, also turned down strongly, and this weakened. We did have a bit of a relief rally in the yen on some risk off trading, and you can see here the New Zealand has also turned up. Okay, we'll start off by looking at the Canadian for last week on the 4-hour charts, and you can see on all of our charts the Canadian finished the week much lower than the opening, and it did strengthen through the week, and this was our strongest currency. You'll notice here the single big bar in the middle where the Canadian strengthened at the surprise increase of their interest rate. Then looking at the pound on the 4-hour charts, you can see here from the beginning of the week the pound has strengthened against all of the currency pairs, but you'll notice here against the Aussie we had a pullback, a strengthening, a pullback, and then a strengthening through the week. This was repeated but not too extreme against the New Zealand here, against yen as well, and also to a lesser extent against the euro here, and the pound did in fact weaken against the Canadian, which was the strongest currency. And then looking at the US dollar on the 4-hour charts, you can see here from the beginning of last week the US dollar weakened against all of the 6 currency pairs, and this was through until Friday, and you can see here it was our weakest currency of last week. Okay, taking a look at the main tier 1 data releases this week, you can see it's all going to be about the pound and the US dollar, with most of this information coming in the latter part of the week. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we've got the CPI inflation reading from the pound and the jobs jolt opening from the US dollar. Then on Wednesday, we've got the average earnings, which is a key indicator for the Bank of England at the moment on the pound. On Thursday, we've got the big one. We've also got the SNB interest rate decision here, but the big one is the Bank of England interest rate decision here at 12 noon. They're not expecting to change the interest rate, and so we'll be looking from the rhetoric from the Bank of England. Then Thursday we have inflation report out of the US, and also following up with core retail sales on Friday. And coupled in, of course, with this we have the UN Security Council vote on North Korea, and we also have the Brexit repeal bill in the UK, which is going through Parliament. Okay, so what am I looking for this week? I will be looking for continuing pound strength and Canadian strength, but we've got to be careful because these are coming up towards the overbought territory, and we're quite long into these trends. Now, the pound may have a rocky road with some of the news items. We continue to strengthen, and even if this does turn down, we can continue to strengthen against other currencies which are in fact weakening themselves. And this will probably be the euro continuing to weaken, and possibly the yen as it turns down, and the US dollar, and also the Aussie. This is also a very similar story with the Canadian dollar here. Whilst we expect this trend run now to turn down, we may well yet still price increase against those currencies that are still weakening. Looking at the euro here, we continue to expect this to weaken, even though we may have some pullbacks in this trend. The yen here is coming from overbought territory, so when this comes down, turns up, we're looking for this now to turn down again on a shoulder pattern somewhere in the charts here, and to weaken further. This is compared with the New Zealand, which is turning up from oversold territory here on the shoulder pattern. You can see here, so we would expect the New Zealand to continue to strengthen up into the charts. Now, just taking a look here across some multiple time frames on the Fat Man, you can see here it's quite interesting. The US dollar here on Friday, if I can put the cursor on, bottomed out on the 720, the 480, and the 4-hour time frames all at the same time here, even down to the 120 here, and had this run up in the charts on Friday. I believe this could be the turning point on the 4-hour charts for the US dollar, and we could see the US dollar come into some strength. Now, looking at the US dollar on the 4-hour charts, you can see the price came up and topped up or bottomed out here on Friday all at the same time in our charts here. And so what I've done is I've started to put a line here, and expect this to be our turning point in the market and over the next few days I'll be monitoring to see if this level holds. And then finally, going back to our multiple time charts, you can see here the yen has turned down on the 720, pointing down on the 480 on a shoulder pattern here, and a shoulder pattern on the 240. So it's looking like this will turn back down for yen weakness. Conversely, the New Zealand has turned up here, and it's pointing up on the 720, the 480, and the 240-minute timeframes. So we would expect the New Zealand to strengthen. And then finally, euro, which is just kinking over here, we had started to strengthen, but you can see at the current time starting to point down, and turning down here again on a shoulder pattern. So we could well see this continuing to weaken. Okay, I hope this insight helps, and I wish you all the best for your trading this week. Do look for opportunities intraday trading, which then correlate to these bigger trends.